All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into Sabrina's diary entries.
Okay.
And as you know, Sabrina died in 2002, and she's now a ghost.
Right.
In 2025 at the Gazette, which is a modern newspaper.
Yeah, modern newspaper.
And
I think this is going to be a fascinating deep dive.
it is fascinating.
Yeah.
One of the things that she's really exploring in her afterlife is her sexuality.
Yes, and I think that's very interesting given the time period that she died in.
Right.
2002, there were a lot more societal expectations around women and sexuality.
Yeah.
Definitely. Versus now in 2025, it's a much more liberal social environment.
Right. And she's really taken advantage of that.
She is.
In a way that I find a little bit disturbing, to be honest.
Okay.
So she's basically figured out that she can possess people.
Yes.
And
it seems like she's primarily using this ability to have sex with people.
Yeah, and she's not just having sex with people.
Right.
She's orchestrating these elaborate encounters.
Yes.
Like, she's putting on a play.
It's fascinating how she's almost like a director.
Yeah, it's creepy.
Setting the stage and choosing the players.
I mean, creepy.
But it speaks to her desire for control.
Okay, but control over other people's bodies.
Well, she did talk about in her diary entries about how stifled she felt in life.
Yeah.
She wanted to have all these experiences and society was holding her back.
Okay, but now she's just taking what she wants.
But isn't that a form of liberation?
I don't know if I call it liberation when she's using people like puppets.
Well, let's look at the rooftop encounter between Venus and Lauren.
Okay, so.
Venus is a reporter at the paper, and Lauren works in marketing. And Sabrina describes this unspoken attraction between them.
Right, like they were flirting.
Exactly, and she decides to give them a little push.
A push. She possessed Venus and basically forced her to kiss Lauren.
Yes, and it's interesting how Sabrina describes feeling everything Venus felt.
Yeah, she talks about Venus's heart racing and how Lauren's touch sent shivers down her spine.
It's like she's experiencing this heightened sense of awareness.
It's violating.
It's intense.
Venus had no idea what was happening to her.
But Sabrina is reveling in it.
And this is what I mean about her orchestrating these encounters.
Right.
She's not just going with the flow. She's choosing the partners.
She's curating the experience.
Yeah, and she's getting off on it.
Well, she's exploring her sexuality in a way that was denied to her in life.
At the expense of other people.
Let's not forget that she was deeply unhappy in life.
Okay, but that doesn't give her the right to use people.
But you have to admit there's a certain thrill to it.
A thrill.
The idea of breaking free from societal norms, experiencing these forbidden desires.
But it's not her desires she's fulfilling, it's Venus's.
But she's experiencing it through Venus.
And this is where I think we have a fundamental disagreement.
Okay, am I listening?
I think what Sabrina's doing is wrong.
And why is that?
Because she's not respecting people's boundaries.
But she's a ghost.
So.
Oh.
She's still impacting people's lives.
She's not hurting anyone.
She's violating their consent.
She's simply opening them up to new experiences.
It's manipulation.
It's liberation.
This isn't some philosophical debate. This is about basic respect for other human beings.
But what if these encounters lead to genuine connections?
You're making a lot of assumptions.
Maybe, but I think Sabrina's story is forcing us to confront our own beliefs about sexuality and consent.
Okay, but let's not forget that she's also possessing a pregnant woman.
Oh, yes, Trish.
And having her sleep with Liam from marketing.
Right in the middle of a crazy news cycle.
I mean, it's irresponsible and just downright creepy.
But it's also a testament to Sabrina's disregard for external circumstances.
Disregard is an understatement.
She's operating on a different plane of existence.
A plane where she can violate people's bodies without consequence?
I think you're being a bit dramatic.
I'm being realistic.
Maybe we need to expand our definition of reality.
Okay, so you're saying it's okay to possess people and have sex with them without their consent?
I'm saying Sabrina's situation is unique.
Unique and disturbing.
Perhaps, but it's also incredibly fascinating.
I'll give you fascinating.
And it's forcing us to ask some tough questions about what it means to be human, even in the afterlife.
All right, well, let's unpack some more of these encounters then.
Okay.
Starting with that rooftop rendezvous between Venus and Lauren, we'll delve into the specifics and try to understand Sabrina's motivations.
Sounds good.
And why I think what she's doing is just plain wrong.
I'm sure you will. So this rooftop rendezvous, this is a prime example of how Sabrina uses her knowledge of people. She sensed that there was an attraction between Venus and Lauren.
Oh,
like
yeah.
They were dancing around each other.
Right, they were definitely flirting at the Christmas party.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Sabrina just decided to give them a little nudge.
A nudge. She possessed Venus
Well,
and forced her to make out with Lauren.
I wouldn't say forced.
But Venus was completely oblivious.
Right.
She was just standing
But
there.
Sabrina was feeling everything.
Yeah, and that's what I find so disturbing.
But isn't it fascinating
No, it's creepy.
to experience that level of intensity?
It's like she's getting off on violating their privacy.
I think it's more about her own longing for connection.
Okay, but what about Venus and Lauren's connection?
Well, maybe this experience will bring them closer together.
Maybe. But maybe not.
We can't know for sure.
And that's the problem.
But it's a risk Sabrina's willing to take.
And it's not just this one instance.
Right.
There's the whole thing with Carla and Frank in the delivery van.
Oh, yes, that was a wild one.
Sabrina talks about how she enjoyed switching between Carla's tattoos while she was kissing Frank.
That's an interesting detail.
Like she was trying on different identities.
Oh, I think it speaks to her desire to experience the world from multiple perspectives.
But Carla and Frank are not perspectives, they're people.
Of course.
And they deserve to have their own experiences without Sabrina interfering.
But what if Sabrina's interference actually enhances their experience?
That's a dangerous assumption.
Maybe.
And it's completely dismissive of the potential harm she could be causing.
But she's a ghost.
So, she can still hurt people emotionally.
I don't think she's trying to hurt anyone.
Well, her actions are reckless and irresponsible.
I think they're bold and liberating.
You keep using that word liberating.
Because I believe it to be true.
But liberation for whom?
For Sabrina, and potentially for the people she's possessing.
I highly doubt Trish felt liberated when Sabrina possessed her and made her sleep with Liam for marketing.
Well, Trish was pregnant at the time.
Exactly.
And Sabrina was able to experience the heightened sensations of a pregnant body.
That's just wrong on so many levels.
But it's also incredibly fascinating.
No, it's not.
To think about the possibilities.
Your possibilities for exploitation, you mean?
I think you're being a bit too harsh.
I'm being realistic.
You're viewing this through a very narrow lens.
I'm viewing it through the lens of basic human decency.
I understand your concerns.
I don't think you do.
But I think it's important to remember that Sabrina is operating outside the rules of our society.
So you're saying it's okay for ghosts to possess people and have sex with them without their consent?
I'm saying Sabrina's situation is unique.
And we should just accept it.
I think we should try to understand it.
But understanding doesn't equal condoning.
Of course not.
And I'm not condoning what Sabrina's doing.
I respect that.
I think it's wrong.
And I find it fascinating.
And that's where we differ.
Indeed. Okay, so we've talked about Sabrina orchestrating these encounters with the living.
Right. And how I think it's morally wrong.
Morally complex, maybe?
But she's also interacting with other ghosts at the Gazette.
Yes, the younger ghosts.
And even among them, she seems to be struggling.
She mentions feeling like an outsider.
Yeah, like she doesn't quite fit in.
Which is interesting considering she's trying so hard to break free from the past.
Right. She's like a ghost from another era.
A walking anachronism.
Well, floating.
Right, floating anachronism.
She talks about how the younger ghosts see her as this relic,
They call her Miss Sabrina.
which she clearly hates,
It suggests a certain level of formality.
and distance.
Yes, like they're putting her in a box.
The old-fashioned box.
Exactly.
And it's ironic because Sabrina's trying so hard to be modern,
To embrace this new era of sexual freedom.
but she's still stuck in her old ways.
Well, she died in 2002.
Right.
Society was different then,
More restrictive.
especially around women's sexuality.
And it seems like those restrictions are still lingering in Sabrina's afterlife.
Even that she's trying to shake them off,
It's like she's caught between two worlds.
unable to fully embrace either.
And it makes me wonder if she's truly happy.
I think that's a question we can't answer definitively.
But it's worth considering.
Absolutely.
Is all this ghost-powered matchmaking really fulfilling her?
Or is it just a way to distract herself from her own loneliness?
Maybe she's trying to recapture something she feels she missed out on.
A sense of belonging, perhaps?
Or maybe she's just trying to prove something.
To herself or to the other ghosts?
It's a complex situation,
As most human situations.
even in the afterlife.
It seems so.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
Sabrina's diary entries have certainly given us a lot to think about.
They're a fascinating glimpse into the afterlife.
And they raise some important questions about freedom, desire, and the boundaries of consent,
Questions that we all need to grapple with.
regardless of whether we're living or dead.
Well said.
So, dear listeners, as we wrap up this deep dive into Sabrina's afterlife,
I encourage you to reflect on your own beliefs
about sexuality,
about consent,
and about the choices we make,
both in life and in death,
and remember,
even in the afterlife.
there are consequences to our actions.
Until next time.
Stay curious.